Furious Driving, proud to be supported by Bidding Classics, Diamond Bright and Lancaster Insurance. So we said goodbye to the Brava and I now own this, the oldest right-hand drive Punto in Britain. Let's take a quick moment to thank today's sponsor, Surfshark, who've made this video possible. So let's take a quick moment to talk about security. Now, in the real world, you wouldn't leave your house open to anybody to walk in and snoop around. And you wouldn't leave your car unlocked for anyone to go and rifle the glove box. And you wouldn't want anyone finding out your most private of business. You know, passwords and stuff, that kind of thing. So why would you want the same online? Searching for parts for my car is a full-time job, hunting on websites all around the world, and I do it from my phone wherever I am, or well, wherever I've just broken down. Now you might think that after seeing what salty water did to my Crown Victoria, I'd be steering well clear of anything sea-related, but not Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN, a virtual private network that encrypts your data and keeps your searches and your personal details private, even if you're connected to a public Wi-Fi network, so no undesirables can have a quick rifle around in your private doings. And if I'm road tripping abroad or to keep entertained while waiting for the recovery truck or however you spend your downtime, being on a private network hides where you are in the world, so you can watch favourite shows on location-locked video streaming services like Netflix, to see content from foreign servers where content is hidden in different parts of the world, or to reach websites back home as if you were still there, and if shopping around for parts, search as if you were in another country to find the best prices and deals. And if you don't like it, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so what's not to love? With Surfshark, you can protect your privacy and access the world's entertainment across unlimited devices, and by using code FURIOUSSHARK, get an extra 3 months free. So click the link in the description below to get your exclusive Surfshark deal and get protected, just not from rust. It doesn't help with that. Hello and welcome to Furious Driving, and this is the last time we're ever going to see this particular Fiat Brava. Unless we see it at a show or something, or go around someone's house. But this is the last time I've filmed this Fiat Brava with a train going through in the background. And it seems kind of fitting to be saying goodbye to the Brava here in this very Motorway Services car park, because this is actually the same services I first filmed the car in when I collected it. The car was always destined to be sold because it's part of my flipping through cars program to try and get onto something bigger and better. This one was offered to me out of the blue, and it's such an unusual car, I really couldn't say no. Because when did you last see a Brava? There's double figures of them left on the road. Super, super rare car, pretty car, and fantastic Fiat, not Type 2 platform, is it? It's the one that came after the Type 2 platform, which is a really good chassis, really entertaining drive. But fortunately, this is an automatic, and I did not gel with it automatic at all. I think I've done under 200 miles in this car, including driving at home in the first place. So that's how little I've enjoyed driving the automatic. I just don't like it. So we're saying goodbye to the car. It's going to a really good home. It's going to someone who has a few Fiats, and so it's going to be part of an interesting Fiat collection. However, things, as always, didn't go as planned, because there was a Fiat I wanted and have wanted for a little while, a particular car which I've known, and instead of selling the car, I've done a swap. So we're on the way now. I'm probably about an hour's drive away from meeting my friend and the car. So let's jump back in the Brava for one last time and go and see the new member of the collection. So a quick recap on what this car actually is, in case you missed the episode when it arrived. Did actually do a Goes for a Drive review on it as well. It's a Mark 1 or pre-facelift Fiat Brava 1.6 SX automatic, and it's quite interesting seeing the differences between the pre and post facelift. There's not a lot of difference. They kept most of it exactly the same, just a few little trim details that changed. It's a lovely car to drive in many respects. The steering is really nice and sharp. The suspension is kind of lovely 90s softness where it kind of flows down the road, but also sharp enough and well controlled enough to give you pretty sharp handling. Although it is on the soft side, I will be honest, because there was two versions. So it's the soft family orientated Brava and the more performance orientated Bravo. It is a very, very rare car indeed. I believe there's only sort of single digits of this specific model, and Bravas in total are well under 100 in the UK left. And I really like the styling of it as well. It's a really good looking car. But with an automatic gearbox in it, it is not for me, and the flipping on program needs to keep going, because I kind of dead-ended a little bit temporarily with the Rover 75, although I am bringing myself round to the fact that that car has got to go, because It's too modern. The 75 is too modern. Sorry, I'm going for a tangent just here. 75 is too modern. It's absolutely delightful, but I've nearly done everything to it, and it's kind of ready to go. It's worth a fair bit of money as far as my cars go. It doesn't fit in the barn, so if I want to take it over to the barn to swap for something else, I can't do that. So I'm a bit stuck in that respect. So I think that's got to go. Meanwhile, this, and in fact its replacement, are very up my street, very on brand, because I have a big love of Italian cars. I just love the look and the feel. They're very different to British cars in some ways. There's a lot of similarities in that they feel a little bit kind of everything done by a small team of enthusiasts kind of feel behind them. But the Italian cars have a certain, I don't know, spirit. It's just a different kind of feel to a British car. And I do love an Italian car. So, in a few minutes, we'll be saying goodbye to this one, handing over the keys once and for all, and driving away in something a little bit different, but also Italian. Looking forward to this. So I said goodbye to the Brava, and I've come home in this. I now own the oldest Punto in Britain, possibly the oldest right-hand drive Punto in the world. It was registered in May 1994, but the build date from the factory is March 1994, which means it's one of, if not the first Punto into Britain. Unfortunately, a lot of the history has been lost, so we don't actually know where it started its life. It's got these rather nasty Miskin and Crag Limited of Scarborough plates on there. It's very good spec. It's a 1.2 75 ELX. Now, running through that 1.2 is self-explanatory. It's a fire engine. I thought when I first had the description it was that really fancy 1.2 16 valve that moved into the Brava later on. It's not, it's the earlier fire version with only 8 valves, which is good because it means the cam belt fail is probably non-interference-ish. Maybe. 75 is the power output, it's the 75 horsepower, and the ELX means it's the top spec. As many toys as you could throw on a Punto were thrown onto this car. It's also in a delightful metallic red colour as well, which is very pretty indeed. Curiously, virtually the same colour as the Brava, although it's got a slightly different name and minuscule different shade. We put the two of the cars side by side, and it's very hard to tell the difference. So let's take a quick look around what I've got here and why on earth I did this. If I was going to have to pick a thing to have when it comes to cars, it would be hot hatches. Look at the Mini Cooper, the Alfa 145 Cloverleaf, the 200 VI. These are the kind of cars I'm normally drawn to. So why am I looking excitedly at a 1.2 Punto? Well, I really like rarities and unusual cars. The running theme you'll notice in my collection of cars is rarities and oddities. Stuff there's almost none left, or very early, very late, that kind of thing. My Y-Range Mini, for example, that's car number 202 ever built, and it's perhaps a dozen or so off being the lowest production number in the world. The Rover 200 VI and 420 Tourer, there's less than 20 of each of those left in the world as well, so I like rare and unusual cars. This car though, I've seen at a couple of shows. In fact, I was parked next to it at the NEC back in springtime when I had the Fiat Idea. I've known for a little while, I know the owner, well, previous owner very well, and it's a car that's intrigued me for a while because it is such an early car in terms of Puntos, and Puntos were massively significant for the Super Mini sector in the 1990s because, well, through the 80s, things had plodded on. There wasn't really much of an advance and an evolution. Things like the Metro, the Rover 100, had gradually been waning away and getting worse and worse. The Fiesta really needed to kick up the butt because that was looking very jaded by the early 1990s. Along came the Punto, and wow, you could have proper big car feel and space and handling in a really interestingly designed, quite pretty in fact, compact design. We actually had two of them. I say we. My wife had a basic M-Reg SX with the 1.1 litre, I think it was, in black, 5-door like this, but none of the spec, wind up everything, no sunroof. I think the radio was an optional extra on that car. She swapped that for a 1.6 ELX convertible, and she swapped that for a Barchetta, which is a Punto-based sports car. So we've had 3 in the family, and I really liked all of them. The chance to own the oldest one in the country was something I really couldn't pass up. And the Brava was meant to go and create money for another flip-on car, or to repair the other cars existing on the fleet. But I really couldn't say no to this. And people have already asked me, what are we going to do with it? And, well, make it nicer. And when it's a car as significant like this, you're not going to slam it and put big wheels on, are you? You've got to just keep on improving. And the previous owner, who is very well known in Fiat circles, and if you're watching this and know Fiats, you probably know who owned this car before. You've probably spoken to him and maybe even sat in it at a show. But with the missing history file, we don't actually know who it belonged to or where it went to, but we can make the fairly logical assumption it belonged to Fiat themselves, and the chances are it was used either for internal training or to go around the dealerships to demonstrate what was coming, some kind of internal use, being that early in the production run. And also the choices that were made in terms of partly the colour, which is striking metallic burgundy, looks really good, stands out, the car leaps out at you. Possibly the only colour better than this would be the citrine yellow, the metallic, slightly off yellow, which is really good. The 1.2 I would imagine they were predicting as a very big seller, so they would want to demonstrate that in the body. And the ELX is all of the specs, so we have got body colour bumpers, we've got the fog lights in the front, and obviously we've got this fabulous design, the smooth front, no radiator grille you notice, just the slot in the front of the bumper instead, very smooth Aero 90s design. We haven't got body coloured mirrors, but they are movable from a little lever inside. We've got the electric sunroof, electric front windows, wind-up rear windows. It is a 5-door. I think the 3 doors do look a bit better. I always think the 3-door hatch looks more impressive. And we haven't got alloy wheels. We've got these hubcaps, which I've never seen hubcaps fade quite like this before. But that's something we have to address as we go along. And inside the car, because as I say, it's the ELX, we have got lots of niceness. It's a really lovely place to be, but you can tell it is the early 90s because certain things which you'd expect to be obviously there aren't. For example, no airbags, just a horn in the centre. Oh, that's a really loud horn. Devastating pop. We have got this gorgeous velour with this amazing early 90s tritone pattern, the grey, the beige, the green, the red, the purple, 4 tones in fact. It's lovely. I absolutely adore this and it feels so smooth. I wish you could feel through your screen how lovely this is. And this is a height adjustable seat as well. So that's all good. Electric front windows, as I say. Everything plastic, of course, because that's the way it works. And this carpet goes all the way down to the bottom of the door. So anything you chuck in that door pocket doesn't rattle around. Movable mirrors, but only on little stalks, nothing electric just there. Inside the car, because ELX, we have got a rev counter as well as the speedo and temperature and fuel gauges, and it is amazing on fuel, has to be said. We've got original spec radio, not the actual original radio, but one that's been replaced, which is the same as it, because when the previous owner got it, it was missing that. We've got a digital clock, which is not correct, and an electric sunroof, which is super lovely. Warning, Fiat Gemini alarm system. I wonder if that still works. In the back, we have got more of this same amazing fabric. We've got folding seats. This is a really practical car. You'll notice we have only got wind-up windows here in the back, but more of this lovely velour. Little ashtrays in the door pockets, those wind-out ones that were so popular for decades. Plumbing inside, and this is a real selling point of the Punto back in the day. Masses and masses of room back here. This is a real treat of Fiat small cars. They always do well, they used to anyway. They were just so spacious. I mean, look at how much headroom I've got. And this is a car with a sunroof cartridge in it. I've got tons of legroom, and this is the seat pushed back for me. My feet aren't squished up or anything. Now, looking under the bonnet, you can see just how clean this is. Look at these inner arches. This is astonishing for a car which is, well, it's 29 years old. It's going to have its 30th birthday next year. It's got good quality UASA battery there because the previous owner was not scrimping on this car to get it back on the road. I've got the 1.2 tiny weeny engine. This is my second smallest engined car now after the Morris Mini. My second least powerful as well. So much space, so much room for activities in between the engine and the bodywork. You can see it used to have an aftermarket alarm in there. As the previous owner said, didn't want to take all of this out because didn't know what it was wired through, whether it went through the immobiliser or the ECU, and it was going to disable the car while taking it out. So that's just been left in place. Incredibly clean. I'm not quite sure when the cam belt was done, so we'll come on to things that need to be done in a moment, but yeah, that servicing will be one of them. Quick look in the boot, and yeah, typical of cars of the 90s. Typical of cars of the 90s. No actually button on the boot, just a keyhole, latch inside the car and a handle. You'll notice there's no high level brake light. Did I say that already? It's got full height lamps, so brake lights are easily visible, but yeah, no full height brake light. Like on the Brava, we've got these big contacts so that the boot lights can make a good contact when the boot's shut. So this colour is Rosso Bright MS. Lovely colour actually. Under the boot floor we have got an actual spare wheel, and you can see again, amazing condition. So good. I'm really happy with this. Is there actually a jack there, or just a jack handle? I'm hoping there's a jack underneath something. We'll figure that out later. Very practical boot, which is good. Okay, we've seen all the good stuff. Let's have a look at what actually needs to be done to the car in terms of the bad stuff. Now, this car is actually an amazing survivor. It was found in a pub car park where it had been languishing for quite a number of years apparently, and previous owner took it on, resurrected it, and then started doing some digging, and then did the discovery of how special this car actually is. As I say, it was built in March. First customer cars weren't starting to be built until May, and L is the earliest you'll find a Punto on. Also, he did a lot of digging into the car's past. Normally you can find about a page's worth of history in Fiat's computers, and this one had several pages of history, but no selling dealer, which also indicates it was used internally by Fiat themselves. Anyway, the engine had an oil change 18 months to 2 years ago, but has done almost no miles since then, just been to a few shows I think. Oil still looks quite nice, but it's definitely time for an oil and filter change on it. Cam belt is of indeterminate age. It doesn't look too hard to do a cam belt on one of these, so I think that would definitely be a sensible thing to be doing. Air filter, maybe plugs as well, but I've got to say the thing runs so smoothly. I'll take you out in a second. It is just amazing. Marvel at those inner wings. That is so good. Underneath the car, it is incredibly solid. I've seen loads of photos of it. There was one small bit of rust that needed welding for the last MOT back in March. Ironically, it was a hole that was already in part of the chassis, and it had just gone a bit frilly. And because it was a frilly hole rather than a smooth hole, it was an MOT fail, so they welded it up, so it's no hole at all. But yes, lots of surface rust needs to be taken care of. So underneath the car, I'm going to have to go through all of that, wire brush, rust-proof paint, under seal, get the bottom of the car coated, protected for the future. But as it stands, it's a very solid car, which is fabulous. On top, in terms of cosmetics, we've got a couple of little dings on the bonnet here, so maybe a PDR can do that. They are a little bit of a sharp ding, so I don't know. That's kind of the most noticeable thing at the front. Number plates very faded, they need sorting out. Fair few stone chips as well, so maybe a repaint on the bonnet wouldn't hurt. Moving around the side, we've got a little scrape here on the bumper, which is irritating. All four of the hubcaps have faded to the white plastic. As I say, I've never seen that happen before. That's completely new to me. So painting the hubcaps will be the single fastest thing we can do. It has got recent tyres. They're not any kind of fancy brand, but it's not exactly high performance, so I think we can probably live with those until they probably perish of old age rather than extreme wear. We've lost a bit of paint just here that needs touching in, a little bit raggedy down there. Again, just really cosmetic, so wire brush, rust-proof paint, sort that out, get that looking a bit nicer. Down the side of the car, someone many years ago, judging by the fading, fitted these door protectors, which have actually done a decent job. There's a little bit of crust that I think I might actually polish out. So yeah, I'll leave them on for a moment, we'll polish them clear. A few little chips on the doors, nothing to worry about. This is the worst bit here, really. We've got a bit of rust coming through just here, and actually down there as well. So this is the worst corrosion anywhere on the vehicle. And what's happened is this fixing point for the bumper is now pulled through, so the bumper's hanging a little bit loose, which is sad. So that needs to be addressed at some point before too long, I would say. Around the back, we've got some crazing on the bumper. This car was written off as a Cat C, as in the non-economical repairable, at some point in its past. It's on the V5. So this crazing might be something to do with that. The thing is, there would have been a point where this car was worth like £200 or £300, and a minor damage would have just written it off for nothing. I've got another scrape here on this bumper as well, and a little bit of bubbling there, but nowhere near as bad, so I think some quick intervention with some rust killer would deal with that. Passenger side is actually quite a bit better than the driver's side, ironically. Normally it's the passenger side that takes the bumps. A little scrape down there as well, nothing too serious. And this hubcap is a little bit worse for wear, but again, paint will make it look prettier. We'll try and find an original one to replace that cracked one at some point. The other three are really good, but the front passenger wheel is always the one that takes a walloping. So yeah, so generally very good indeed. Real glass headlights, which is fantastic, and it's this really pretty slimline front end look that Fiat were doing back in the 90s. The Brava took it to like another level with its real slitty front end, and the Alfa 166 kind of did a similar thing as well. Stepping inside, again, not perfect, but not bad either. The car's only got 56,000 miles on it. I think it's my lowest mileage car by quite a long way. There's some just natural wear on some of the hard plastics. Might be able to clean those up. I don't know if I can or not. Some colour fading up on here as well. Again, I'll get some sort of heavy duty cleaners and things, see if I can clean the plastics up a bit. A little bit of a split on here, which I think is going to be a non-economical repair at some point. And up top we have got a repair on the sun visor, which is quite an unusual thing to have failed, because normally you can pop your sun visor out and turn it sideways, which is actually something I really wanted to do on the drive home yesterday, but couldn't. So maybe till I can find one, I might switch these over so I have the option of pushing that over to the side if I get caught in low sun, because there is no air conditioning in here, which is painful on a hot day. Instantly, the thing I regretted about driving home in this car yesterday was the temperature in the car, which brings me to a third thing in the interior. Heater works, fan works, direction doesn't. It's stuck on screen, so at least it is stuck on screen rather than feet or something, so I'm not stuck with undemistable windows. So yeah, we're not the end of the world, but at the same time slightly annoying. I guess that means taking this panel out and just tracing back where something has gone wrong. I'm guessing the cable on the back of the switch probably. So there we go. I'll take you out for a riding thing in a second, but it is a pretty little car, isn't it? Really nice proportions. I love those full height or very tall tail lights that we found on the Volvo estates around a similar time actually. Love the colour, the style of it, the shape of it. It's just a really pretty car. You can see that I think the front bumper might have been painted because it looks in certain angles like a slightly different colour, but it may just be this kind of metallic sheen in the paint. From this angle here, that front bumper looks like a really different colour entirely. So, I don't know. We're definitely going to have to get a little paint done to it. Let's take it out for a little drive because it is such a smooth thing on the road. It came with 2 keys, no big red key with this one apparently. Although interestingly, the spec sheet for it, which I'll show you when we get back home in a minute, actually includes the fact it had remote central locking. It has got central locking on it, but I haven't got a remote key. I've no idea how I would go about solving that problem. But do you hear how smooth this thing is? It's almost silent at tick over. Really is nice. So yeah, and pulling away, it's also astonishingly smooth. It's just such a great, comfortable, quiet, refined car. I'll shut the sunroof, it'll be even quieter. Tilt slide, no less. 0 to 60 isn't that impressive if I'm perfectly honest, but it's not really about performance with a 1.2 litre city car effectively. I'm not quite sure what the 0 to 60 is. I need to go and look that up. I haven't really checked out the full spec of the 1.2 75. I'm guessing it's around 12-13 seconds 0 to 60, but the initial sort of 0 to 30 woof, it's really impressive. It just leaps away from the line, and up the top end of the scale it well, it keeps up with traffic very happily indeed. Going around the M25 last night, we were in the fast lane, not struggling at all to be keeping up with anything else or getting in anyone else's way either. And it's economical as well. I picked it up yesterday with a little under half a tank, and I've now got about 1/8 of a tank I guess on there, so it's used about 1/4 of a tank to do about 100 miles or so. It's now just starting to flicker the warning light if I go up or down a steep hill, so I guess the tank is a funny sort of sloshy shape. So as a car owner, did I need this car? Not really. As a car collector, did I need this car? 100%. Because it's a kind of rarity and oddity that really you can't say no to. And as soon as I saw it and parked next to it in the NEC back in springtime, I just knew I wanted to have this car in the barn alongside the other rarities and oddities. Storage is going to be an issue. I'm going to have to try and figure something out to make room for it somewhere. So the previous owner had rescued it and spent a silly amount of money just making it better. He fixed the electric sunroof, which wasn't working, replaced the radio, serviced it, fitted new tyres to it, did a bunch of other things to get it up and running and MOT'd. he was very, very fond of it. Kind of like I am with the Rover 75. I really, really like that car, but so driving this thing is actually a brilliant answer, an antidote to the modern over-assisted car does everything for you and takes over and tries to steer you in your lane with the awful lane keep insisting on putting on cars. It's surprisingly basic. It's got a fantastic little manual gearbox. It's a little bit notchy at low speeds and when it's cold, but it's really nice to actually jump through the gears when you're driving. A little bit plasticky sometimes, but overall pretty good. The steering is nice and light, got loads of feel, very direct, no play in it at all. This car is so tight, it's tight as a drum. No airbag, no ABS. I'm not even sure it's got power steering. Certainly I couldn't find a reservoir or any kind of pump for it. Maybe it's just really well hidden somewhere. But yeah, it is a real analog driving experience, which is the kind of thing I like. And it is a typical Italian drive. I'd forgotten this about Puntos, and even though I reviewed one from the same owner, in fact, a couple of years ago, that was also a Mark 1, they do just want to rev and rev. They do just want to make you drive like a hooligan, and I don't know what it is about them. The way the engine just spins up so easily, the way the steering is just so sharp, but you really, I don't know, you can't help yourself. No matter how much of a sedate, calm, quiet vicar of a person you are, get into a Punto and suddenly you're bouncing it off the limiter and going sideways into a corner, which isn't a bad thing. It does lean a bit, but those tiny little 14-inch wheels, treads like that on them, but the car weighs nothing. It's a tiny, tiny, lightweight thing of a car. Yeah, the fuel gauge did not like being thrown around like that. It's now, oh, it's gone off again now. The needle had pegged itself through the bottom of the gauge. So this is a really nice car to drive, which is also historically very significant. I mean, it's safe to say that Puntos have been neglected as an emerging classic for a bit too long, but I do think the time is coming. People are now starting to recognise them as the interesting, significant thing that they were. A lot of that is driven by reminiscence and nostalgia. As I say, we had two of them and a sports car based on one back when they were relatively new. And lots of other people who are now in their 30s, 40s will have had these as first cars, early cars. And they'll have fond memories of them, much like the Mini. So I think this is definitely a car that is worth saving historically, as well as a car that is dynamic. It's a car that's definitely an important car to save historically, and as an example of a really good example of how a Punto should drive, because this thing, 56,000 miles, it drives like new, it really does. So we have quite lots of information here from Fiat themselves, from their internal computers and that things. So we know that the car was launched, the Punto was launched on the 17th of March 1994. So this car was built on the 2nd of March 1994, which is pre-release. So it's not a customer order car, because people couldn't order it until the 17th. So it's a pre-launch production car. Like the Mini Cooper, it's a pre-production or pre-launch car. And the first Puntos registered by dealers seemed to be about 6 weeks later in May 94. And what happened with this particular car, we know that it was invoiced to the dealer network on the 4th of May 1994 and registered with a number plate on the 13th of May. So yeah, interestingly, there's no actual mention of a purchasing dealer. Normally, like with the Gaydon Heritage Trust documents, there would be mention of where the car went to, but there's none of that, so it seems like it was an internal thing. So we've got an options list on this car. It's an ELX, so it's well spec'd, manual rear windows, adjustable steering wheel, rev counter, rear window wiper, and using your blade in it, by the way, electric sunroof, which is cool, English owner's manual, protective strips, adjustable steering wheel and adjustable D, don't know, remote central locking, which is interesting. As I said in the car, we've got remote locking, but I haven't got a remote key for it, so I need to try and work out, I wonder if Fiat themselves could help me with that. Electric front windows, front fog lights, metallic paintwork, mechanically adjustable driver's seat, goes up and down. Wax. Oh, it was waxed from new. I didn't know that was an option. No wonder it survived, because if you saw my walk around the Panda Pen, there were half a dozen Mark I Puntos, and every time I saw one, I got very excited, because I've wanted a Mark I Punto for a while, and my plan had been to try and buy one and restore it, but buying the oldest one in the country is even more exciting. Every time I looked at one, oh, that looks really nice, the interior is fantastic, the paint's great. And then Vernon would say, yeah, but it's got no floor. And this one has got a floor, so apparently waxing it works. So this is a fascinating little car. I do love my pre-production early car specials. So now I've got this and the Mini, two very, very small cars with lots of big history to go with them. Do you like this car? What do you think? Let me know in the comments, because whenever I add a new car to the fleet, I never know how it's going to go down with the viewers. And this is perhaps a defining feature of the cars on the channel. I buy them because I like them. And if they get good views, then that really is quite a nice byproduct. I've always liked the Punto. I think they're great cars, and I've wanted a Mark I for a while. Ever since I drove the white one in a review a little while ago, I've wanted another one. And so yeah, it's really quite exciting to have one sat on the drive again now. So, as always, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. Don't forget, mugs, hats, stickers, magnets, all key rings and all sorts are available at furiousdriving.co.uk, and Patreoners and channel members do get a discount. I need to update that discount code for this month, actually. Thanks for reminding me. And yeah, please hit like and subscribe. We're very close to hitting 100,000 subscribers mark, so really would love to make it towards the end of this year. It'd be fantastic. So if you're not subscribed already, please do, because that makes a massive difference to, well, the way these videos get shown to the general public, and maybe get a few new viewers in. Right, thank you for watching, and see you again soon when, well, I'm literally going to get out the car and start welding on the Crown Vic now.